Our most important people are the three mayoral candidates and also the candidates. But Elizabeth Sam is the extraordinary president of the extraordinaire. And without further ado or anything else from me, let's turn it over to Elizabeth.
This is the first test of our audio system. We're trying and hoping we can operate without that microphone being passed back and forth endlessly. We have mics on the speakers for the sake of the video, but if anyone can't hear me now, wave. Otherwise, this is what you're going to get. It is really inspiring to see a room this full of people who care this much about this community. And we're lucky to have 9 really exceptional candidates interested in these leadership positions. And I'm looking forward to more about all of that. I wanted to say a few words about the format. The BAM board came up with some questions. A lot of people have submitted questions, and a handful of people have handed me more tonight. There are cards out there if you want to pass one up. Believe me, we have more already than we can get through. But feel free to send one up here, and we'll get to the ones we can. The number of questions we can get to is directly tied to maximizing the time we give these 3 people to talk. So I am going to ask you to hold your applause through the Q&A so we can just keep moving from one issue to another, and we can all go crazy at the end. The goal is to spend about 45 minutes on this conversation and then have another 30 or 40 when we can break up and have one-on-one conversations, and that's the plan. I was planning to introduce our candidates, and I got in touch and got data on all of them, but since what we really want to do is hear them, I'm throwing it back to you guys now. So we are, in case several people have already suggested this to me, our plan is to alternate who goes first and last. So everybody's answering all the questions, but we'll keep trading it up. Curtis, however, alphabetically first.
Okay.
Start us off. Our goal, I forgot to mention our timekeeper. Jane is our timekeeper. We're also going to try to equalize the time people have. We've done, it's a gentle, I had a cowbell, but we opted for this one. We could talk about everything that's going to come up tonight for hours. But what we found in forums before is you can learn a lot in an opening 1 to 2 minutes. So in spite of the fact that that sounds brief, those of you who've done a lot of public speaking know it's not as brief as it sounds. You can get a lot in. We're going to ask you to aim for that, and Jane will keep us honest. And if you hear the bell, you're done. So Curtis, introduce yourself, and this is the big softball to start with for everybody. Why are you running for the mayor, and what are your most important qualifications for the job?
Okay. Thank you. Hello, neighbor. My name is Curtis Ford, and I'm running for mayor of the city of Atlantic Beach. I came to the Beaches community 55 years ago. I've lived the last 37 years in Atlantic Beach. My mother lived in Atlantic Beach. My younger sister grew up on 2nd Street. I raised my 3 sons in Atlantic Beach. This is my home. 1982, I graduated from University of Florida, and I went into banking and finance. Spent 37 years doing that. I think I got pretty good at it. But along the way, I realized you need to give back. First thing I did was I joined Oceanside Rotary. Then I joined the board of directors for Beaches Fine Arts. I found that I still had a little bit of time, so I started serving and volunteering and contributing to Beaches Habitat. As I neared the end of my career in mortgage banking, I realized that I needed to step up and give back more, so I took on the role of CEO and president of Beaches Habitat for Humanity. Boy, was that an eye-opener. I thought I knew a lot about the community, but trust me, once I was in that role, I started seeing things that I had not seen. And that's one of the things that's going to help prepare me to be mayor. I dealt with people that were homeless, people that didn't know where their next meal would come from, people that were fearful because they had lost their job that they would lose their home through foreclosure. So the reason why you should consider me for mayor is because of longevity in the community and experience. Thank you.
No.
That's very good.
It was very good. Can you possibly shove
Yes,
in
ma'am.
so that these microphones are speaking to one another?
Oh yeah, you have to get our.
Excuse me, may I ask a question? Did I get to 1 minute or 2 minutes on that?
1.5.
So, thanks. So 1.5, I thought I had 2.
Oh, you do?
Is the
Was
bell?
it Dean 30 seconds out, or was it Dean?
30 seconds.
Dean's 30
That was
seconds out.
30 seconds in.
Okay,
so-
now I've got the rules, thanks.
Let's start over. Start over.
Yeah, thanks for the practice run.
That was a nice wrap-up.
Still got 30 seconds.
Hit it, Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean. I go by Sean because I'm your neighbor, and everybody calls me Sean. I moved here about 5 years ago, or so, almost 6 years ago. In 2016, bought a house on Satchariba in Live Oak. Started working it, met great neighbors like Alan back there, and started working on my house. Moved into it in 2017. Me and my wife and my youngest son, Keelan, my own son, Keelan. Retired from the military in 2020, 21 actually. I just returned after 31 years in Special Forces, in particular Special Forces underwater operations. Retired as a Command Sergeant Major. I've traveled the world, Iraq, Afghanistan, Central Africa, Central South America, any place you can think of it, I've been there in and out at command levels. So when I came back here, I said it was time to go, time to get out. The biggest concern was I left during all the Iranian ballistic missile stuff. I was in the middle of all that. And I said, well, when you get shot at ballistic missiles, it's time to get out. So you survived that kind of piece. So I came back to the community, and I got involved with my son's school, ABE. I got involved with teaching there, assistant teaching there, got involved with Student Advisory Council, PTA, and just being involved in the community. Involving with that, I kind of came to the realization, it's just not me that takes care of my son, it's a community. It's a village that takes care of everybody in here, and myself taking care of everybody else here. So that was very important to me to be part of this community. Is that the official bell? No. I thought we said turn it on. Anyway, so I got involved with the Beaches Town Center Committee to understand the community even more. I started bartending at Jack Surf and Paddle 5 times a month because I needed social interaction. I needed somewhere to help find myself, where I needed to be, where I belonged, and I found out it was here. So when the position came up for mayor, I said, what is the best position to protect the community, protect my son, and be part of the community? And guys, be part of a 5-person committee to be able to help push us into the future. And that was being the mayor of Atlantic Beach, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Keep it moving. Brittany, over to
Thank you. So you're going to notice a theme. I like to hit the ground running. I moved here, I was a military brat, came here after college, and everyone had that moment of discovering Atlantic Beach. Because I had that moment, I was like, I'm going to be here. And then here goes the theme. I hit the ground running. Whether that was volunteering at my church at the time with Young Life, whether that was starting a nonprofit to target food access issues that I was seeing in my community, whether that was even actually galvanizing folks around me to get involved locally and to understand what happens, what's important at local government. I originally got involved because I needed to practice what I preach. I want my city to be strong and resilient. I want to be here in the next 30, 50 years. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to be involved in the policy that sets up Atlantic Beach to be strong and to be resilient. And so over the last 5 years, I've set a legacy of the way that I handle, that I work with citizens, the way that I work with staff, the initiatives that I go after, the projects that I work toward, everything from accessibility and sidewalks and safe streets to getting money to Mayport Road to change the game there. My big goals going forward, you're actually going to see a lot of similarity with us because we all want better parks, we all want better sidewalks. But one of my biggest goals going forward is we have an interlocal agreement with Jacksonville. We send a lot of tax dollars to Jacksonville. I would like to see more of those dollars stay here. And so I'm currently investigating, we have over 10 different interlocal agreements with Jacksonville. And I'm figuring out what do we get, what do we give, and can we ask for more, and what does that look like? Because we know best what's right for our community. And we have great ideas and projects on the shelf ready to go. And if we have the money to fund them, Atlantic Beach can be super resilient and super strong, and we can all enjoy living here and being safe And, oh, that's a 30-second. You're gonna get me confused.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, we're done. Change it up.
We're just gonna try to keep you on the end. Okay, Sean, you're first up on this one. We made improvements to the tree protections in 2021, but as a number of people in their questions have pointed out, developers and contractors are still taking down heritage trees and happy to eat the fines because they're so small compared to the cost of the new homes. And again, this question is for everyone, but Sean gets first crack. What's your strategy to improve on preservation of the tree canopy? And please, all of you, be specific.
First of all, there's no me. It's a we. It's a 5-person board, so we have to go 3-2 to push that forward. And it's what the citizens want. I listen to the citizens, is what they want. For the last 5 years or so, we haven't been very good at saving the trees. We just got one cut down recently, last week. Was there to try to stop that kind of piece. I understand it went to the board. I'm not sure what happened up there. But the strategy for me is kind of looking at, hey, if the tree company's coming in to cut a tree down, you shouldn't have the same person that's judging that tree to be sick or dead on the same company payroll. It has to be separate. Key part, keeping separate kind of piece. Now, do we bring someone on board that's full-time on the city? That's something we got to look at. I'm not sure we have the money to do that, to be honest with you, or the trees, the people that come on to go observe that piece. But I would feel that we should make sure to separate 2 entities. One is that the tree company is cutting it down, and one is that a separate person is coming in to determine that tree is actually dead or needs to be moved or something like that. That's my opinion on it. Now, I can go further than that. I mean, and I'm sure about fining wise, if it comes out of fine, we could look at, hey, does the individual get fined and the tree company get fined? That may be something to think about too in time, because I tell you right now, if you keep fining tree companies, they ain't gonna want to cut trees down. You know, that's all I have now.
Brittany?
Yeah. So the tree code is a hard one. We are preempted by the state. There's a lot of stuff that comes out of Tallahassee where they reach in and like, well, an arborist can just write a letter and they cut down trees. You will see that dedication that the commission has set. They're actually following through on a lawsuit fighting some bunch of tree removals done on 19th. I called the tree owner on 2nd Street and tried to work with him and convince him to maybe consider keeping the tree in the last. He decided not to. That's a hard case study because technically he was following the rules in place. And so I think we need to balance those rules. We need to better incentivize people to keep the trees versus trying to tell them what they can and can't do. And that could look like utilizing the tree fund, opening that up where we're not just planting trees, but let's say that a homeowner has a large heritage tree that's costly to maintain, to keep removing branches, to make sure it's in the best of health. Maybe that could be an opportunity for use of the tree funds where we can come in and the city partner with you to keep your canopy healthy and alive and doing well. I think we need to talk too about the benefits of trees and better educate people. The amount of stormwater that they retain is huge. Water's a big deal in AB. Any way that we can utilize the trees to help us in that, it's a win-win for homeowners. Brings down your bills. A tree, shade, lower AC. So there's a lot of reasons to keep trees. I think the city has a duty to better inform people. I don't know if that's a booklet that goes out when people first move in, if it goes out with their water bill, but I think that's a route that we need to better explore, is encouraging people to not even consider cutting them down in the first place.
Curtis?
Thank you. I'll take a little bit different approach on trees. First of all, my opponents both made some valid comments and arguments there. I actually sat in on a recent tree board meeting, and before I actually explain my position on this, let me finish up my 30 seconds at least. I just want to go ahead and say, if you remember nothing else when you leave here today, my message to you as my neighbors is Atlantic Beach residents first. Never forget. That's the important thing for all of us sitting up here, is Atlantic Beach residents first. And so we have an ordinance and we are being preempted by the state, and these are issues, and I'm certainly well aware of the legal action that is still ongoing on the 19th Street debacle. So I am all for supporting our ordinances, but the comment was made that the people on 2nd Street, for example, they followed our rules. So they were within their rights to do what they did. If we want a different outcome in that type of example, we need to change the rules. And as Sean so eloquently put, he's only one member of the commission. If I'm mayor, I'll only be one member of the commission. But what I want to say on this for the residents, we always need to remember the impact on an individual. I feel very sorry for the people buying the home on 2nd Street, that they will be vilified as being evil people following the rules that we established. When I went to the tree committee review a few weeks ago, there was a homeowner that had been cited because their arborist said that the tree needed to come down, it was diseased. We had a city arborist that disagreed, they did the thump test and so on. Here's what's different. After they cut the tree down, they had segments of the tree, they rolled them in on a dolly right in front of the dais in chambers for everybody to see that the center of that tree was rotten. The next segment of that tree was diseased. This tree was diseased, and nobody at this point reasonably could argue that that's the case. Now, good news is I compliment our tree review board because they actually found in favor of the homeowner and gave them relief. But we need to think about impacts like that as we administer justice and our laws. Thank you.
Okay. Start with you, Brittany, on this one. Sort of to the point Curtis is already making. A lot of the contentious issues in this community come from the tension between community rights and the ownership we all feel for how things are or should be, and private property rights. So what's your view on how, as leaders, you balance that?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Private property rights are important. And in a larger image, community rights are also important because what we do affects our neighbors and determines the future of Atlantic Beach. If we all decide today that we are just going to cut down trees, Atlantic Beach is not the city it was last week. That being said, I think there needs to be balance. I think the city needs to do a better job educating folks, how I talked about incentivizing people to keep trees, educating people why stormwater runoff is a big deal. We have old infrastructure, especially in Old AB and the numbered streets. They were built originally for small bungalows on large lots. That's not what we have. So we have a lot more water hitting our system. And so collectively, I mean, no one wants to be part of the avalanche, right? Like we realize we're part of that, but all together it becomes a bigger deal. And so I think it's incumbent on the city, on the commission to continue that effort of educating people and building coalitions where we know that Atlantic Beach is a strong community, we're a tight-knit community, and that together we can face a lot of different issues. But again, that does need to be balanced with you do own your property and you do have rights to developing that property. So yeah, there's not an easy one-size-fits-all answer, unfortunately, I think, to that question, but I am definitely of the mind that there needs to be balance.
Curtis.
So I'll agree with my opponent on that. Is there definitely needs to be balance, and no one person on the commission is going to drive policy. It's a collective. You have to occasionally give up something to get something, and I do think that is one of the things that we're capable of doing in this community. So my belief is we keep working together, but we pay attention to what we have passed as legislation, and we don't vilify people if they're following the law. Always, we should be first and foremost following the ordinances that are on the books, and then being willing to step up and change them if we disagree.
Sean?
I mean, both of them said it pretty well. What it comes down to is common sense, you know. But when people come here, we have to educate them. But also, there are cities out there that already have these problems, you know, and we have to research that, and they've already come up with solutions. So it's a problem going out and researching that and find out what solutions they came up with in order to keep their trees and keep the environment the way it is. You know, we can sit here and say we educate people, but we have to go educate ourselves and go out there and find out cities who have already done this at the same time. But people coming here have to understand you come here for a reason. You come here for the canopy. I live there on Satchariba and I'm covered with canopy, and I absolutely love it. You know, so they have to understand that coming here is, hey, this is part of the reality of living in Atlantic Beach. I have a giant blower that I have to use 3 times a year to blow all the leaves out of there, but I love it. So it comes back to common sense, education, and hey, go out there and find out what other cities did to have these problems.
So Curtis, first up on this one. Mayport Road has not had a grocery store in many years. It's not quite a food desert, but pretty close. What can be done to alleviate that problem?
That is a problem. I remember when we lost, I think it was the Food Line or whatever, in favor of Fleet Landing. And so that was the last opportunity for access to groceries in that part of our world. And having been at Beaches Habitat, I understand the problem there. Right now, Beaches Habitat is building 3 new homes in Mayport Village. Where are those people going to find groceries? So it's an issue, but we're going to have to either work with private enterprise and incentivize something. The city by itself cannot solve that problem. Having food or Saturday farmers markets and so on, that's a nice idea and it's helpful. And having Beam on Mayport Road, that's helpful. But that's not going to solve the problem. We need groceries and we need to eliminate the food desert. And so it's going to take a lot of dialogue and private-public partnership.
Sean?
I'll go right back to what Curtis said there. It's very true. Incentives right there. How do we incentivize companies to come to Mayport Road, driving more business in that area? We're not looking for giant franchises, but when it comes to grocery stores, it's something we probably look at. We already have a Winn-Dixie and a Publix in the area right there, so what would be next coming in the area there? Because I'm sure another supermarket grocery store wants to get involved out here. What a great way to get in, get your feet on the ground, is a brand new spot somewhere in Mayport right there. So that would be incentivizing, bringing a different element in there. That's what I have, man.
All right. So I think there's a lot of ways to tackle this. I actually tried over the last 5 years. There was a small organization where they build smaller footprint grocery stores. And so they don't offer like 14 different types of tomato sauce, but there's at least some sort of tomato sauce. At the time, unfortunately, the business owners or landowners that I was connecting them with were kind of full. There were no open parcels. So I'm going to reach back out to them and see where they stand. That's the hard part, is a lot of Mayport's built out. Good news, though, is during my time on the commission, we created the Mayport Business Overlay, and we changed the redevelopment possibilities of businesses and parcels along Mayport Road. So we updated setbacks. Basically, you can come in there and you can fit a lot more space. There's not so many parking requirements. So we have laid the foundation for someone to come in and to be a successful business to offer service that the community needs. I also want to see us too capitalize on the growth of our neighbor city, Mayport. It's exploding right now. And I think that's a prime area that we could work with City of Jacksonville and their representation, our district representation, and get some focus to building a grocery store that would complement what's happening in Mayport and also support Atlantic Beach citizens along Mayport Road. So those are some avenues that we could explore in order to get maybe a small, I know an Aldi's would be a great place in that location. It's just a manner of, I think, of incentivizing it, maybe through work with COJ. But yeah, we kind of changed the game on Mayport Road for folks who want to come in and start businesses and buy land and build up, because we've changed the rules that dictate stuff over there.
Okay. Sean, first up on this one. Parking, obviously a hot issue in our community for years and only going to get worse as our population continues to increase. So is a multi-level parking structure near the beach part of the answer, or you have other better ideas to suggest?
I don't have better ideas to suggest. I would look back at our current city and go, what were your courses of action you looked at right now? And observe some of the courses of action. If was anything out there? If not, we need to observe some other courses of action. Again, we're not recreating the wheel here. There's other places that have done this stuff and had to deal with this. So we have to reach back and find out what they were. Parking's a big deal, We can get rid of the cars if you guys want. I ride my bike all the time back and forth, so we can do that for one. But it is a big deal down there, and what's going to happen is when we start going on First Street, what's going to happen is it's going to push the Second Street, and it's going to push the Third Street, and it's just going to keep domino effect down the road.
Right.
We've seen this stuff on 18th Street. Like I said, I live down there. I've seen it on 3 busy days. It comes down and pushes across on the Satriba. It's not a big deal. Only happens 3 times a year kind of push. But they have to really take a look at what's going on out there, because I know that Neptune Beach also, they have a highly affecting the same deal right there. They've got like 255 slots all through Neptune. We got roughly 55 slots downtown center right there. That's a tough fill going on there. So I truly do not have an answer for you, but the truly is answer is look back at the course of action the city is currently looking at, and if they don't work out, what are the courses of action do we have out there?
Brittany?
So I can tell you about the course of action that the city is currently looking at. So guys, there are 1 million people plus in Duval. Duval is skyrocketing with the number of people who are moving here. And they all want to get to one of our best assets, and that's the beach. And we're at the beach. And so that's going to be a reality that we have to deal with going forward, is there are a lot of people who want to be here. We've already tested out some things. We're piloting paid parking right now at 18th and 19th. As someone who lives Marshside, that wasn't my first recommendation or the one that made me happiest, but we need a way to take care of our citizens there and still allow citizens across Mayport Road to get over there. And so far it's been great. It has been a much different experience going to 18th and 19th. And I say that having visited myself multiple times before school started and summer kind of wound down. So there's elements like that, but those are small tools in a much bigger toolkit. What our city really needs, and I keep telling the city manager, we're gonna get there, we need an overarching parking department who can look at the city holistically, identify solutions for different areas, and ideally keep issues from rebounding across the city. So we talk about addressing parking issues on First. We could do something, but if it's not part of a larger picture, we move the problem to Second or to nearby streets. And so having someone dedicated to helping us build that plan, and then also to enforce it. I personally don't want the Atlantic Beach Police Department writing parking tickets. I think that we could have a different individual doing that, and then do that citywide too. And so you know the right person to call, and they can come, and yes, that's a violation, and do the correct thing. So it's not an easy solution, again, but we need something holistic and citywide where we can address all different streets and neighborhoods in Atlantic Beach.
Curtis.
So I've heard some good things, and you have too, but understand our parking, two things about parking. It's not the same at 18th and 19th as it is on First Street, as it is in Town Center. These are all different parking issues. So we've embarked on this process of paid parking. That is at least a solution. It may not be the best one. People keep asking me that question, but it is a solution. I want to thank Mike Waters for at least bringing that to the fore on the 18th and 19th, because 2 years ago we didn't have any solution. Now we at least have that. We cannot lament what we failed to do in the past 10 and 20 years. We missed the opportunity. And parking garages, even if we put one in, is just going to park more people coming to the beach. If that's what you want, then great, that we can do that. Or we can't do that, but if we had the land, we could attempt to do that. My bigger concern right now, again, I go back to what I said earlier, Atlantic Beach residents first. And so we have, at least at the north end, or the south end, in the old city area, we have a free-for-all on parking. We have people parking right up against the fire hydrants, right into the stop sign, all over the place. The big issue for me is safety. So when we have a garbage truck that can't get down the street and have to go down to the next street, go to beach, come over, and so on, that's the same thing that's going to happen with an emergency vehicle. So we need to think about safety. We need to be thoughtful about each and every resident. So there are solutions. In some of these narrow streets, we should only have parking on one side. There are some streets, I know First Street has been a real problem because of so much traffic. And understand First Street, the difference in First Street is you have the overflow from Town Center, you have the parking by the employees in Town Center, and you have everybody that turns onto Sherry right in the middle of heavy traffic for school pickup and goes, oops, and they hang a right. And so you have this running the gauntlet on First Street where you have to pull over and let him come through, or maybe go at him and see if he'll pull over. It is a free-for-all in our city, so we do need a comprehensive review and approach. And I do think that using paid parking is a partial solution. Before I finish, let us not forget our neighbors in Marsh Oaks. They deserve parking. So if we do paid parking, but we have stickers or permits for our residents, or the same process we're currently using, free parking, 3 hours, all residents, West Atlantic Beach as well. Thank you.
Lucky for you, there's a short question coming soon. Okay. Brittany, this is one that's just come over the transom tonight.
Oh, an audible.
It's a very broad question, and I trust you'll all do something different with it. What can we do about the city's homeless population?
Yeah. That's a hard one. One, I think there's a level of grace that we all need to have when we see these folks and interact with them. But I would also encourage you to get involved with a lot of the organizations that are in existence at the beach. We have Beaches Habitat, we have Beam, we have Mission House. We have people who are doing a lot of good work to get these people opportunities to get them off the streets. Sometimes it's just a warm hotel room on a very cold night. These people I know folks on these boards and who work in these organizations, and they always need money, they always need volunteers, they always need help. And so I think that's a prime place to start, is when you see this, recognize that you yourself can be part of the solution, and volunteer. Give of your time, give of your money. I've been very excited with what Beam is doing on Mayport Road. They have a fantastic center where it's not just a pantry. It's also set up too where it's actually like your grocery shopping. There's a lot of dignity to it. But they also have a lot of other services, whether that's advice on financial issues. Sometimes that's helping just people get through a month. Or that's rent, groceries, something like that. So there are a lot of great organizations locally that also the City of Atlantic Beach is very happy to partner with. But I encourage you guys to get involved as well.
Curtis?
The issue is a serious issue, and it's daunting, but it's not without possible resolutions. But I start with the premise that you're never going to solve homelessness until you do a better job on mental health and drug addiction and alcohol abuse. Right now, there's probably 4 or 5 people camping on a 3-acre parcel on Mayport Road owned by Beaches Habitat. I refuse, at least as the leader of Beaches Habitat, and by the way, I'm no longer the CEO there, but as the former CEO, I've refused to move people off that property because we're not yet developing it. But at such time that we develop it, they move on. And these people, when they come to me and I talk to them and recommend Sulzbacher, all too often the refrain is, I don't want to leave the beach. So they're perfectly willing to stay out under the stars because they want to have the same lifestyle we enjoy in the canopy, okay? So they want to be at the beach. But we really need the services in order to attack this problem. In the meantime, I do want to be clear on one thing. I would never, ever deny somebody's right to exist anywhere they can find a place to stay for the night. This is a sad thing. But that should not be occurring in our town center. And if you're not aware of it, we have one resident in town center that he ought to by now have ownership, deed and title to the place that he is staying because he's been there 7 years. Now, city attorney is working on a new ordinance to deal with that, to try to move that issue. We need to have these people somewhere else. We have invested so heavily in this community in town center. That is the gem of Atlantic Beach. We cannot let it go to homelessness and so on. We need to find solutions, and as I said, part of those solutions are the actual services that these people need. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Sam and Paul, they're 2 of the homeless individuals down there. Sam is a heavier set guy in a wheelchair and a bike around. Sat down with Sam for quite a while, learned his history. And I've gone over a few times with him just to see if it's correct, look for false and, change of story kind of thing, He's got a pretty interesting life, but he lives on our streets, he lives on our sidewalks, he's out there in Beaches Town Center, he covers the whole sidewalk there in front of One Ocean with all the stuff, and he parks up and he goes down, has dinner down there at Poe's. He hugs over to the surf shop, gets a cup of coffee at the surf shop, jack surf and paddle, moves around. So he's got around the area, so he's pretty comfortable in the area. There's a reason that people are coming to Atlantic Beach and not Neptune Beach. Maybe look at over their ordinances and figure out how they're getting pushed from there over to our side. Why don't we give the police the authority, give them all the tools in the toolbox and give them the authority. One is common sense when they have to react to have to move homeless out of the way. You can say that, you can give them a try. There's plenty of opportunities out there and places for them to go, but they have to want to go. We've had moments we've actually helped them try to go that way and they're like, no, I'm good, don't want to go anywhere. You can only help people so much, and then you can't help anymore. So I believe we have to give our police the authority. If it starts getting in the way, starts becoming too much of a hassle, then we're going to have to help escort them out of here the same way. If you let 1, 2, 5, 6 in, guess what? You're opening the gates for a pile more coming in. If you want to keep Beaches Town Center the way it is, we're going to have to do something about it. So I have.
Curtis,
Yes.
Switching gears. In today's unusually divisive atmosphere, we are all hungry for leaders who will bring us together. In fact, one of the questions submitted to me tonight is, how are you going to bring us together? I'd like all 3 of you to, I hope, can describe some situation in your past that demonstrates your skills at this, because we need them.
Thank you. So I've had the unique opportunity at Beaches Habitat of bringing together 2 groups with a common cause. I've brought together CEOs that are running businesses and focused on how do they have enough employees in their businesses to assist with first-time home buyers that have never owned a home and would like to do so. And so what I take from that is these are two very opposite spectrums of our society that have a common goal. And it's amazing to see people work together when they have a common goal. So that's one of the skill sets that I picked up at Beaches Habitat. And because of that, I actually launched the CEO Build, which is the #1 fundraiser for Beaches Habitat, to get CEOs to actually drive, using their actions to drive results down through their organization. So we've had very big success on it, and we get more and more people in the community that are involved in that. And so now we have people coming together, common cause. I'd like to export that type of thinking to the mayor of the city of Atlantic Beach. Thank you.
Sean?
I got plenty of stories. I can tell you about bringing the Sunni and the Shia together, going after ISIS. Two religious organizations that absolutely hate each other, but they hate ISIS more. So we had to bring them together outside of Baghdad to push them north, push ISIS north back up to Mosul area. So we brought them together, they trained together, we mixed them in together so they would work well together. They ate together, they slept together, they prayed together, and they fought together. And a lot of them died together. That is a tough role, bringing two people like that together that absolutely hate each other, but we found a common goal. They hated someone else worse. You know, that was ISIS in that piece. Maybe that's our common goal.
It's an interesting plan for the city.
So what I found with all that in life is that labeling gets us nowhere. We start labeling each other, it gets us absolutely nowhere. We can't talk, we can't communicate, we can't have a conversation. If you're too far left or too far right, we can't figure things out. We have to sit down in the middle and have a conversation to move forward. Yes. I've seen that in the worst ways. And we managed to make it happen. And I think I know I can bring those leadership skills to my background, to the city, to bring everybody together. Because a leader does not separate. A leader unites people to follow him and follow an organization of 5 people on the board to push forward to do greater good for the community.
I brought people together and they haven't died, so. Sorry. So I get to practice this on the daily, whether it comes to citizens and staff. Sometimes the citizens are trying to understand something from a layperson's perspective, and staff's talking from this level, and sometimes you need a mediator to jump in and be like, I think this is what's being said. Let's literally meet and figure this out. I have done it with staff and staff. For those of you who have followed along with Atlantic Beach for the last decade, we have a little bit of a checkered past when it comes to equity and racial relationships in some of our departments. And so I was spearheading pre-COVID. COVID changed the game on a lot of things. But actually having those conversations with staff, with our city manager, and getting to the root of some of those issues. And then I also do it every time I go to a meeting. So one of the first things, I got in right after the 2016 election and talked about divisive. And one of the first things I did was to advocate and to craft and to push for a civility pledge that the commission takes and has taken for the last 5 years. And it's basically just agreeing that we are going to be civil with each other, that we're going to talk things through, that we're going to do the research. And I think it's been very effective. I would argue that this is the quietest commission you guys have ever seen. We are not hitting the beach's leader every other year. There are no big overarching issues. We are doing our job, we are taking care of our citizens, and we are not creating drama. And a lot of that comes from my no-nonsense approach, and then for also advocating for civility, and also hearing out my fellow commissioners. It was brought up earlier that Doc Waters should spearhead paid parking on 18th and 19th. He actually did not. He was able to walk into that. One of the first things that I did with him is I actually had a public meeting with just him and just me. And we went through his concerns. I wanted to hear him out on what he was bringing from his neighbors about parking and offer up to the paid parking solutions that we were looking at. And it was fantastic. And I think it built a really great rapport between me and Dr. Waters, and we've had a great working relationship since. So I've put this into practice pretty much every time that I step into City Hall.
Okay, Sean, you're first up on this one, and this is my last question about political division, and a question I did not expect to be asking in a local mayor's race, but it's one we receive from a whole lot of different people.
Not cutting my hair. I'm not cutting my hair.
No. Damn. See, I knew it would be a quick answer. Okay.
Short and sweet.
Do you believe the 2020 presidential election was fraudulent in any way?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with this race. It has nothing to do with this race. It really has nothing to do with this race. Yeah, that's way beyond our scope here. It is way beyond our scope here. You know, let's ask everybody. Should we ask that question? The citizens have spoken. Sounds like I said no.
Well, the citizens spoke by submitting it, and
I think you know my answer.
okay, so Sean's taking a pass on that
No,
question.
I'll answer the question. No, I don't think it was fun.
Pardon?
I don't think it was fun.
I think the city deals with all layers of government, and the question is, do you consider the current system we've got legit?
You're referring to the President of the United States, right?
I am.
Yes, ma'am. If right now my commander-in-chief when I retired was President Biden. So I think answers the question right there.
Brittany?
I don't believe it was fraudulent. I understand there's a lot of divisiveness, and I understand people are angry. People have put a lot into their political parties. But I think, too, the moment we start questioning this system, everything comes into question. So if you don't believe that the presidential election was legit, then you have to call into question every elected position. And that opens up a whole playing field that, oddly enough, certain people don't want to discuss. So no, I don't believe it was fraudulent. I have faith in our electoral system. I actually know some of the volunteers who go and work those polling locations, and they are fantastic, and they are loyal, and there might be some of them here actually. And they are dedicated to making sure that everything that happens in those polling stations is above board and accounted for. So it would be hypocritical of me to claim that that election was fraudulent and then also be running in another election. So.
So I'm disappointed that the question exists in this forum because one of the reasons why I wanted to run for mayor in Atlantic Beach is this is a no party affiliation race. So proud to be able to do something that gets away from this national politics and the separation that occurs from that. But I will answer it at least partly, and that is it would be a mistake to discount the opposing view to what I just heard of so many Americans today that think there were improprieties. It's not going so far as to say it was fraudulent, but there were differences that were born out of COVID and other things and the opportunities. So let's always remember, if we really want to bring people together, we better start listening to both sides. I don't know which side each of you are on, but there are two sides to everything. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all. I understand it's a volatile question. If we hadn't received it as many times as we did, I wouldn't have brought it up. We are almost out of time, and as you can obviously see from all the questions you've gotten, and I appreciate the attention you've given to this array of how are you going to fix these 95 problems. But this is an audience of very concerned people who love where we live, and we know you do the same. So I guess the question for you going forward, and you're up first. What's the best way for all of us to stay aware of and to influence what's going on at the city?
So Florida actually has some amazing public record laws. A few years ago, we actually had the Sunshine Laws. They set international standards for the access that you can have to government. So half the time, it's just a matter of getting to City Hall. Our meetings are live streamed. I, for one, am very responsive on emails. If you ever have a question, you can hit me up and I will get back to you. There's also, too, you can get on the list to receive the bi-week or the agenda basically for every meeting that happens. There are a whole wealth of ways to get involved and to see what's going down at City Hall. So I would encourage you to get on those email lists, to come to a meeting every once in a while and to see what's going on. And then also, too, and this doesn't happen enough, I'm always open to grab coffee with people. I actually have a lot of times when a citizen shows up and is very combative and frustrated, and I'm like, it's fine, let's grab coffee and let's chat, and I want to hear you out. And by the end of it, we've come to some sort of understanding, and they have a little bit more favorable outlook at what can happen for them at City Hall. So I would encourage you guys to to come by and to say hi and to reach out. Unfortunately, there's this fallacy that like, well, all government is just, it's corrupt and blah, blah, blah. Local government, I would argue, is one of the most important areas because we are your neighbors. I live next door to some of you guys. You will see me at Publix and at the dog park. And I am always down middle of Publix. You can ask me, hey, I heard this thing was happening. What's going on? I think the scary issue is there's so much happening that people get overwhelmed and they assume corruption. Oftentimes, most of the time, it's just lack of communication. So I would love to fill you in on the big picture of things happening at City Hall and to get you plugged in as well. And just shout out for our boards and committees. We're always looking for people to serve. I'm on the chairperson of the Board Member Review Committee. We need people on ESC, on the Community Development Board. We need folks to be involved, and that's what makes Atlantic Beach great. So please keep that in mind and reach out if you ever want to learn more.
Curtis,
Can you repeat the question, please?
the fundamental question is, what do you recommend for a group of people spending their night tonight looking at this and wanting to make the community better? What are the best ways to make a difference?
So the first one that just comes to mind, having been to so many meetings in the recent past, is why are our citizens not attending our commission meetings? And it's not acceptable to say they're watching it online. The problem with that is, let's assume that everybody is watching it or watching the videos afterwards. You don't have that opportunity to actually speak unless you're there. And that is the engagement and the discourse that we need in our community. So I'm very concerned about that. I promise you this, when I become mayor, I'm going to encourage, I certainly will ask all of my supporters, come to the commission meetings and let your voice be heard. But I want you to think about this and ask, why are they not coming? It is not solely because they got used to watching it on television during COVID. I'm concerned that our city is not embracing people in a fashion that would make them feel comfortable. Sometimes I see that people are almost admonished for the questions that they ask or the views that they hold. These are our citizens and these are our neighbors. If we treat people with respect and encourage them, they will come back to our commission meetings, and we need them there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if you go to a commission meeting, plan to take about 4 hours of your life.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah, and a blanket and a pillow, some popcorn if you can. I'm actually going to ride behind Curtis in this one. I actually agree. I've talked to several people that went to several meetings over the years and nothing got done. So they said, you know what, I'm not going to stop going. Every time I go, no one listens to me, no one answers me. So I figured out I'm just not going to go anymore. But Curtis is absolutely right. If you want change, you want things to happen, people have to go to city commission meetings. Love to have it there, but we also understand people have lives. They don't have 4 hours to take things. They want to catch things up. You can watch the videos, you can go on later, see the emails, see the agenda, and kind of work through things that you want to see or you're more interested in. That's kind of a big piece right there. I got a 7-year-old. I don't have 4 hours really to give up that much time. Right now, when I'm mayor, I'll have plenty of time. He'll be sitting next to me on that. Vice mayor on that piece. But that is the best way. We have a huge amount of social media these days. After movies, social media we can't really listen to too much, but the social media stuff comes out of the city hall. You should listen to it, take a look at it. You know, can't make you do it. If you want to learn, you've got to do it. You've got to be involved with it. That's the only way it's going to happen. Thank you.
Now we get to applaud. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for giving us this time and for being willing to battle for the right to go sit in all those meetings. We're going to take a few minutes now to rearrange the setup here. Please try not to trip over all the extra chairs. Make your way to the food, and then we'll have our 6 council and commission candidates up here. And we're going to slide this table over a little so it's easier, so we've got some more open space.
Awesome.
And feel free to go outside. Drag a candidate with you and go outside.